Hotwire. Chi Millaway with MSL. And Amber Roberts with Indeed. Jimmy the Fourth. Oh boy, public speaking. Not my favorite, but here we are. I would like to thank each one of my panel guests for coming in. I've had the pleasure of working with some of them for quite some time. Chi and I have worked at 2 different companies together, so it's been a pleasure there. Amber and I work together, and I hope to also have that opportunity with Sylvia here. So today we're here to talk about the role of PR in building your brand. So we'll start with the first softball question for myself and the panelists here. But while we do that, while each of you answer it, just give a little background on who you are, what you do at your company, so we can give our audience here just an idea of where we're coming from and how we understand that. So, which are the metrics that PR pros should be thinking about aside from metrics like reach and coverage? These are typical metrics, they're the standard metrics, they've been the standard metrics for the last 20, 30 years. So thinking about where we're going and what is important to us as we try to understand how we're building our brands. Anyone want to go for Sylvia? You want to go first? Amber?
I can kick us off just because I'll rip the Band-Aid off. Amber Roberts from Indeed. I am a Senior Manager of Operations and Analytics across our corporate communication teams. And so kind of a unique team. We have external comms, aka PR. Hiring Lab, which is like our economy group, a group of amazing economists that provide us with a lot of data, which we all love. But we also have internal comms, so like how we talk to and send out communications to employees, and then most recently, government relations. So kind of a fun mix of work that I get to do, but for this, kind of topic, really so far I've focused it on our external comms team and Hiring Lab. Metrics to look forward to, and even more background, when I started at Indeed 2.5 years ago, never measured PR. So I am coming to you with a learning mindset, so I've learned a lot in the past 2.5 years. And when I first started, we were really just looking at that volume of coverage and tier 1 publications and kind of very rudimentary things. And me being a newbie, not knowing what questions to kind of push back up, I would just this isn't really telling us anything, and everyone would freak out if our number was higher or lower from month to month, and I was like, this doesn't seem sustainable as our number 1 metric. So share of voice is what we're currently kind of focusing on now. Obviously not like a groundbreaking metric, it's been around for a while too, but with Onclusive, we've been able to kind of look at share voice in comparison with our competitors, break that down by market, and then with that coverage and the slice of the pie that we have, really get into the insights there. So I think that one is going to be a really big piece for us as we move forward the rest of our fiscal year and on to next year as we're already starting planning, which is crazy. And then for us, I really want to get to the PR attribution metric, which I know has been highlighted recently. Working on it, Jimmy. Our data teams are not so easy to convince to let any outsiders in. But I think for me, those are the 2 most interesting ones, and just show value to the rest of the marketing org of we are creating an impact.
Yeah, and just to piggyback off of your share of voice point there, talking a little bit about power of voice, where we can help you show and understand what the quality of that coverage looks like as opposed to that static. So we've started working together on implementing that more, because especially as a new metric to PR professionals themselves, not necessarily Onclusive, but it's a way for us to show more of the value that PR can bring. Sylvia, Chi? Yeah, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I think you nailed it. I think it's the why are we doing this, right? And I hear clients saying, well, we need a seat at the table. We need to demonstrate ROI, and we need to, marketing takes it all. So if you demonstrate the value of what you do, then you'll get a seat at the table, right? And we recently, we conducted a survey with PR and comms professionals about their data metric usage. And some of the results that I think are interesting is our 35% use 2 to 3 metrics, right? Only 13% say I only use quantity of coverage. So that's, that's good. We are moving on. And so what they reported using, it like goes from quality, quality metrics, share of voice, key message penetration. They're also starting using some audience metrics,
demographics.
Exactly, all of those, and attribution metrics. So they use like web metrics, like all of the metrics think about Google Analytics that it's always been very much attributed to marketing, right? So that's refreshing. But then there's 65% that doesn't yet, right? So I think the why is important, and if we want to demonstrate that ROI, it needs to happen.
Yeah. And I think this is maybe where Chi-Chi and I can relate to each other a little bit, and this is that in my experience in helping my clients, not just in the customer success position that I'm in, but also in the insights position that I have done previously, is to your point, using 2 or 3 metrics. There's multiple metrics that can tell your story, and to not get caught up in just one, to identify what your goals are, and to let the story be told by a multitude of options there, so that way you're giving yourself a leg up on where you can tell your story and how you can tell your story. Right, Chi-Chi?
Right. So I guess I can jump in. I think it's really important to have contextual metrics as well to really show how you're performing, not just in a vacuum, but against your competitors, against your past performance. That's where share of voice is really impactful, but also other campaigns that you've done. I think a lot of quality metrics as well. So looking at, are you in the headline of the coverage? Are you in the media that you care about? Are your key messages and executives and all of that sort of stuff pulling through are really important as well. I'd say the kind of constant question I get is a lot of my clients are very tired of impressions, and so they come to us and they're like, what else can we look at? So that's where we try to suggest some of these impact ones. I think anything that can also help show how it's impacting the business. So that's the attribution, but it's also, can you tie it into other sales data, to click-throughs, downloads on a site, any of that sort of web data. And I will say one thing with all of those metrics, it can get a little overwhelming where you wind up with like a giant scorecard and an executive sees just numbers and hates it. So it can also be really important then to consider, is there a better way to also present the metrics, or do you want like an impact metric that kind of summarizes things, which bringing it back to the Onclusive, like power of voice metrics like that, they kind of pull all of these factors in and give you like one score that you can use to speak to your reputation and impact.
Yeah. And you've heard that attribution talk a little bit, from each one of them, and just attribution is a metric that allows us to understand what kind of news content is driving brand awareness by bringing people back to the website, but then also brand engagement. Once they're on the website, what are they doing on the website? So you may hear that a few times today, just to better contextualize some of the words that we're using. And then power voice is a quality score metric, where shared voice is a quantity one. And I think that builds us up into a really good second question here. So brand growth is about driving outcomes at every single stage of the funnel, whether that's awareness, brand interest, product desire, ultimately action. Could you tell us a PR initiative that you've run that achieves this?
Yeah.
Sylvia, can you start?
I realized I didn't introduce myself. So. I'm Sylvia Ortega, and I'm VP of Marketing at Hotwire. We're a marketing and communications consultancy. So happy to be here. I can talk about. I do marketing for Hotwire as an agency, and I have a marketing background. And I am, when we talk about the funnel, it's all about inbound lead generation for marketers. And what we're doing right now with some of the clients at Hotwire is inbound PR. And inbound PR is not a new concept, but we've been doing, and I'm going to put you an example. We have a telecom a client, and what we're doing, in essence, inbound PR works the same as inbound marketing. It's just the difference is we do it with PR, meaning we create content that tailors to the interests and value of the people. It's in that sense more agnostic, if you will, and not so much like brand push, get our products kind of thing.
Yeah.
Right? So we've been doing that with this telecoms company, where we set up content that goes gated, ungated, all of it more tailored to interest. And we've done activations with some of the things. I think about podcasts and stuff like that. It's just very topical. And then we have the more like, almost like lead gen aspect of it on the website, where you have, you know, sorts of contents that drive people to the website, and you check on that traffic. But it's because we almost like always used to see the funnel as very linear, and it is not, right? People are not ready to buy, or people know about your service or product, but sometimes they don't have the need, right? So I think these kind of activities tailor more to that recognition that funnel is not linear, that people can go different ways. And this campaign has worked. Like, we launched, and then we were able to demonstrate quarter versus quarter, right? So the uptick on web traffic has been like over 40% to that particular campaign. And then if you go to particular pages and views, then more than 150%. So I think that's, you know, if you talk about funnel and you talk about bringing leads that are going to navigate through that, I think doing that with these type of things where you don't have to necessarily push, but pull people,
Yeah.
And it's a good example.
Yeah. Gigi, Amber.
Nothing to add. Yeah, that's great.
I'll maybe just add, since I also forgot to do the intro. Gigi Milloway, Senior Vice President and Analytics for MSL. So I do everything kind of data monitoring and research, which is probably why I don't have a great brand campaign example.
Yeah. But here we can then talk about, you know, going into the next part about just trying to, because Sylvia, you mentioned like getting a seat at the table, right? And running campaigns, and that can be successful. So I'd like to move on to talking about, you know, as marketing typically gets bigger budgets and PR either rolls up into marketing or it's a separate entity, and PR teams have a fight with the marketing department, usually trying to show the value of the brand within, you know, the company through that. So this is where some of the proprietary metrics that we have and just the quality metrics that we can show and help prove that PR has a worth at the company. You know, I want to talk about experiences in trying to either help yourselves or get your clients, if you're working at agencies, get bigger purse strings, have a seat at the table, and then what's your experience in getting, you know, seats at the table here? And maybe Amber, that's a better question for you, because and indeed you said that, you know, they treat PR like you have a seat at the table, but you almost get to choose, right?
Yeah, so I think, again, been at Indeed like a couple of years, and it was really, you know, heartwarming considering some previous experiences that I had where we do have a seat at the table. Every brand marketing team, employer marketing, job seeker marketing is always kind of funneling a PR initiative into their campaign plans. And, you know, I think for us, it's not just PR it or they put together the marketing campaign. It's just like, okay, now go spin a press release about it. But they're really coming to us from what data can you provide us that what you're hearing out in the world, you know, so using monitoring tools, being able to kind of pull out insights of our, like what kind of the key messages related to this campaign that are really working, and reporting on that to some of these marketing teams has really helped us, you know, become a trusted partner on all marketing levels. And I think right now we're kind of in a unique situation where, you know, we're getting pulled into all these marketing campaigns, but it's more so a question of like, what table do we actually want a seat at? Because some things, it's like a big brand campaign, you don't really need PR to do the work of like all the amazing, you know, commercials you'll see while you're watching Hulu or something. Like the message is clear. Ours is more of like, okay, what can we kind of take from that messaging? Work with our hiring lab team of economists that they're doing research and pulling data, and actually have these pitches to journalists that will really get engagement, and being able to show like, hey, we did this marketing campaign last year, we did it this year, and these are the things that we've tweaked, and this was the improvements in metrics that we got like year over year. So yeah, seat at the table, and like the budget thing will always be interesting. I think PR always gets short end of the stick when it comes to marketing budgets, but I think the more we can kind of show our value through these metrics, show the year-over-year growth, and just pulling different levers. Like from my experience at Indeed, we are getting more yeses than no when it comes to money, and more surveys, more data, all of that fun stuff.
Go ahead, Gigi, yeah.
Yeah, I'd add on to the point about value, where I think going back to, for a second, the impressions point, I think that's a stereotypical like marketing metric where it's you pay for impressions. So that kind of sets us up for failure because you're always going to be paying for more volume, and it's a lot easier to get money and show success that way. So I think one of the ways PR can show its value and get a seat at the table is by showing how you can reach like a really targeted group. So maybe you have a consumer product that's out there, very popular, and you can deliver an ad about it to 1 million people. But if you want to reach a really certain demographic, certain age, location, people who are interested in something really specific, PR can be a really effective method to reach out to them. You can do your research to understand what their values, attitudes are, what media outlets they're reading. You should be monitoring what like reporters resonate with them that you want to reach out to, and then you can use that and more effectively reach them and show like the success in like the areas that you care about.
Yeah, and maybe even just piggybacking on that a little bit, going back to one of the teams that I work with, helping them out with a major soup brand. That every year, especially around the holiday season, they do a targeted campaign, and we've really been able to help show the value that PR has in what kinds of food that they can help out with during that. I don't know if there's anything you can add to that. Again, that's I know a different part of the group there, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting case because it's also kind of using data for the PR campaign, so something I can actually be involved in. But yeah, I think like that brand, they do really interesting things just to see, they're making sure they're reaching the right people, they're in outlets they care about. And one of the things that they look at is they're really looking at results in a very like minute level where they want to see how they're performing at each state. So being able to drill down to that sort of analysis provides a lot of value for them as well.
Yeah, and I think that's just a big point here. It's just using data, right, in every aspect that we can. While we've noticed that marketing uses data pretty extensively, layering in the additional data points that we can from a PR side and what valuable insights we can bring using that really benefits us and helps our, either our clients or if we are client side, talking and saying this is what we're driving for the brand and this is how we're helping show our worth here. Sylvia, is there anything you want to add there? Or?
Yeah, I think the lines and my background is more in marketing, right? So I just see it, and I see it with clients where we do PR and then they call me because they want PR, but it's like really we end up doing integrating PR and marketing and communications. Why? Because right now, you just think about it, right? So the media is hyper fragmented, and then people are just different channels and platforms, and so the lines are blurring, right?
Yeah.
So I almost like slightly disagree a little bit with Amber in the sense that PR should always have a seat at the table because what you yield as a result is earned, right?
Yeah.
So if you think about an integrated campaign, you always have to have marketing and comms and PR comms almost together to try and just have one cohesive, powerful narrative, and then just going from there. And then the results that you yield from PR are earned. So what better results can you expect? They're different, but they're from third-party endorsement, whether that's media or whether that's a reporter or a journalist or someone else, right?
Yeah.
And then also that blend goes not only through media outlets or broadcast, but also through social.
Yeah.
Right? So I think there's this component that PR brings to the table that now can be measured, like we just saw. So you can say, wow, the value of what I brought by, having mainstream, my presence being mainstream. I'm talking about I told your clients and going to Jimmy Kimmel Live or the New York Times or CNN.
Yeah.
I mean, you put a value on that and how far it traveled and how the message traveled, right? So I think it's just integration in terms of skill set as well.
Yeah.
So knowing measurement, knowing your numbers, knowing what's up with AI, right?
Yeah.
So that's
Rebuttal?
Yeah, it's a debate now. No, I guess just to clarify, it's like, we'll always be involved. I think it's just like, for for our team, it's like the level of PR involvement, like the messages are strong, all that thing, like, and it's kind of like a broad audience, like, is there that piece that you're talking about, Chi-Chi, of like, is there a vertical or a segment of this audience that we can like get data on, really dig into, and then just like generate the tier one, you know, media publications that would like want to talk to us about it. But if we go to them with just kind of like a broad brand campaign, not always the case. So I guess more so we'll be involved, but like, is there an angle for everything that
support
goes
the
with it?
machine.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think this is, if I'm picking up what you're all putting down, is that basically communication is a key part and an integral part, right? As our teams become more integrated and we're required to work across different facets, different departments in the company, understanding what's marketing working on, or what's PR working on, or what's even sales working on, right? And that's where I think even where Surab was trying to show us the vision of where Onclusive is trying to go, in that there's a whole journey that takes place before an actual campaign launches, before you go out to the media and launch that, and understanding each part of that journey and what you need to do to plan that out across the different teams, so that way you're coming together as one cohesive unit and going to market or going to the story and really telling them, right? So then, speaking of just kind of where the future is going, you know, where in each of your eyes is PR going in the future, and where do you expect it to go? I know AI and machine learning are the two biggest buzzwords in the last year. And from my perspective as a customer success officer and really just working with my clients directly, one of the things that I enjoy doing is just finding different ways that I can save my clients time. Time is the most valuable resource in the universe. And if I can save my clients, you know, an hour of their time, they don't have to, you know, dig through data necessarily, and they can find those insights easily, then I want to make sure that they feel empowered to do that, and they see that. So that's where I think my vision goes in that, and is just finding and saving you guys time. But yes, let's hear your opinions on that.
Plus one to everything we just said. As Judy knows, like we work together very closely on Indeed's measurement, and previously used a different tool, and it was so time intensive, and that was the reason for me kind of selling in the new tool Onclusive to the team. Just didn't have a lot of trust with the, you know, kind of coverage that we were getting. And with Onclusive, it's been a lot better. And now, like, finally, light at the end of the tunnel, like, our biggest goal that we have is to take away the administrative load on these teams and, like, the time that it takes to, like, really pull out insights and get the reporting. And again, coming from a team that has had a lot of distrust with the measurement process before, it is a little bit slower of a road, but we're slowly ripping the Band-Aid off with them. But yeah, I mean, I think everything that I'm so sorry, I met too many people today, but the first presenter Sarab had on the roadmap, I'm like, that's it, that sounds great. But yeah, any AI features that, you know, we can start to use and just make everything a little bit more simple. But I think it does come down to that piece of like, all of that sounds great, but for my experience, for my team experience, is like, can we trust the data that's coming in here? So, you know, I'm all for the future of being like, this is the most accurate PR measurement that you're gonna get. And I don't know if you guys know that our name is Indeed, but it is really hard to measure PR. So that adds another layer. But yeah, I think for me the biggest thing is like having it be automated and having it be, which we're getting closer. Onclusive is helping us get to that point, but anything in the future that can help out with that.
Well, I'd say I think there's probably going to be a big change in metrics in the near future. I think every few years there's kind of an upheaval in the industry, right? First it was like the social networks got popular, then they shut down their APIs, then there was, you know, data privacy issues, and now I think it's like we've seen some shifts, let's say, in the major networks. People aren't quite approaching X, Twitter the same way anymore, and we've seen, you know, everyone kind of rushing to TikTok, and it's such a different platform. You can't quite, you know, control the algorithm, let's say, the same way, where it doesn't really matter how many followers you have. Engagement doesn't matter as much as it used to in getting your content to spread. So I think there's a desire for like, well, how do we measure the impact of that? So I think metrics will be changing a lot, and I think part of that is where AI does come in, because it can offer that better, deeper analysis. It can help us see not just, that in the data set this trended, but potentially what like an emerging future growing trend might be. Earlier I was talking about segmentation, so sort of with that too, where it could allow you to more quickly drill down into like key pieces of the data to try to find something interesting.
Yeah, totally.
No, I agree completely with both perspectives. I think that, AI is going to change a lot and already changing, but we saw right now what's available, and still there's a big percentage of PR pros that are not using it. So in the most immediate future, what I see is people adopting it more, because if you don't, then you're going to be wasting valuable time that other people are just like automating and using real time for that, as opposed to bringing real value. So I think it's, in the short term, it's a disadvantage not to take what already exists, right? What we saw today. So I think that's one part, and I think another part is also sort of AI. AI is going to change, also how we consume things. Like we at ProWire, for example, have a tool that takes a look at Gen AI optimization. So it's called IoTech. So you look at chatbots, and what we do with clients, it's not just migrate a channel, it's one more channel you look at, right? And then you're looking at social media, you're looking at, you're monitoring your media, you're looking at chatbots and how you show up there, and what publications, and then you find different nuggets, right? So I think also the future is more trying to consolidate that in a way that AI efficiencies are taken care of, and then your mind is going to be more like, okay, now the gloves. What's going to be the differentiator, and how are we going to use AI, which is also the big debate now, beyond just getting efficiency gains, to get more like to get a differentiator in the market, and to get closer to the customer. So I think there's a lot that the PR role is going to have to.
Exactly. PR will have to evolve, just like every other industry or every other department in the company has to evolve, But to Amber's point earlier in that, it starts with trust. You need to trust who you're working with in that point. So that way then you can build and embrace upon the change that does ultimately come. And in my own experience, just embracing change is usually where you can find new storytelling ideas and figure out new ways to evaluate your data. So I'm not sure where we are at for time. I see Jack telling me a little, tapping his watch there. So I want to thank each one of my panelist guests here for coming up, coming across the country. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Jimmy. That was an amazing panel.